Can I just read out the response from the Oxford Diocese? Because I think this goes to the heart of the problem. It's about the way we view protesters if they happen to be protesting about the sacred turf of climate change. This is what the Oxford Diocese said. They said these roadblockers are arguably well intentioned, and they added, and that responding constructively to the current emergency is the responsibility of every family, every workplace, every village, town and city, every company and every public institution. We all need to work together. That was their way of criticising the Reverend Tim Hughes has been blocking roads for days. This is the problem, isn't it? If it's climate change, the police, the clergy, the establishment treat these people differently to other lawbreakers.
Absolutely. They're always treated with kid gloves. That's always the case with eco-protesters, including extremist eco-protesters like Extinction Rebellion and Insulate Britain. I mean, if you compare when people were protesting against lockdown, I mean, a lot of those people had their heads knocked in and were dragged off the streets by the police and were completely demonized by the media. But then you have these protesters blocking the M25, preventing people from getting to work, preventing people from going for medical treatment and other important things. And they're treated with kid gloves. You have the police saying to them, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" And when a few truck drivers tried to get these people off the road, it was them who were taken away by the police and prevented from taking that kind of direct action. So climate change protesters are always treated in a softly way because, for all their radical pretensions, actually most of the establishment agrees with their depressing politics.
Yes, one of the great masterstrokes of political history was when Tony Blair and Peter Mandelson added the word new to Labour. And New Labour became a brand that was sold to the British public, and the rest was history. Now, I hate to praise our eco-warrior friends, but their stroke of genius was to put the word emergency after climate change. And so there you have the Oxford Diocese saying, we all have to respond constructively to the current emergency. Well, I, for one, do not accept that we have a climate change emergency. And it is the embracing of the language of these road blockers and these bridge blockers that presents half the problem to us as a society, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think challenging the language, challenging the ideology is actually the most important thing. But as you say, the problem is that everyone who talks about these protesters in the media or in the church or in the police, they tend to agree with their exaggerated view of the world, their politics of fear, their doom mongering, their end of world craziness. You know, the idea that the planet is burning, we have 10 years left, we're all going to hell in a handcart. This kind of ridiculous kind of revelations view of the world. So many people now buy into that nonsense. And it is really nonsense. You know, there is not a climate change emergency. Is there a problem with climate change? I'm sure there is. And it's worth thinking about. I think there are other things that are more important, actually, like solving world poverty, solving world hunger, making sure that we can cure certain diseases. I think they're more important. But the problem is that climate change is now elevated above everything else, and that's been done through the language of emergency. The language of emergency means you're not allowed to criticize this stuff. You're not allowed to raise awkward questions, because if you do, you're seen as playing along with the end of life on Earth as we know it. So it's a very cynical tactic designed to shush debate and designed to protect these protesters from any kind of criticism.
Yes. Now, just as with Black Lives Matter, I don't believe that racism is really their true cause célèbre. I believe that they are, as their manifesto states, far more interested in destroying capitalism, smashing the nuclear family and defunding the police. And I don't believe that these climate protesters are actually that bothered about the climate change, quotes, emergency, close quotes. These demonstrations are purely to hamper and sort of get in the way of capitalism. They don't like capitalism. They don't like the commercial society. That's what it's all about. The climate change is merely a tool that they hang on to, because how else could they justify super gluing their hands to the M25 and somehow saying, oh, well, this is going to help save the planet? It's ludicrous, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't like modernity. That's what it boils down to. They don't like living in an industrialized society. A lot of these people want to go back to the era before the Industrial Revolution. Well, good luck to them if that's what they want to do. But for the rest of us, for the vast majority of mankind, the Industrial Revolution was a very good thing. It dragged us off the land, brought us into cities, gave us the kind of freedoms and education and enlightened worldview we now enjoy. It means we no longer die at the age of 33 from diseases we can't even pronounce. It has progressed society to such an extraordinary degree. It has lengthened our lives. It's made us happier. It's given us more choice. But these kinds of hair shirt greens, they want to go back to a pre-industrial era, which they think was some kind of paradise. It's a complete fantasy. Anyone who knows anything about history will know that if people live close to nature, they're more at risk. They're more at risk from the whims and the violence of nature. Whereas the more industrialized and the more modern you become, the more you can protect yourself from those kinds of things. So they're against industrial society, they're against modern society, and they're against ordinary people. I think a lot of this looks like a class, it's like a class war against working people who are just trying to go about their daily business.
Indeed. What did you make of the fact that they used to be called Highways England, I think they're called National Highways now, had to take out an injunction, allegedly, in order to empower the police to deal with these roadblockers robustly? Why couldn't the police just deal with them as lawbreakers? Because that's what they were. And I had a copper on last night. He said, well, you see, the problem is that just arresting them for blocking the Queen's Highway, that's not a particularly serious offence, so you have to let them go pretty soon afterwards, and you only can caution them, and they'll be back down the motorway the following day. I said, well, it was a couple of days ago, wasn't it? When on the M25, you actually saw these people forcing very heavy traffic to screech on their brakes and skid all over the road because they ran onto the M25. Now, they're endangering their own lives. They're endangering the lives of motorists. Could they not be charged with endangering life, which is a very serious offence? Why on earth does the police go, oh, thank God we've got this injunction. Now we can deal with them robustly. What are they going to do next? There's a bank robbery going on. Oh, wait a minute, we'll just get an injunction out. Why can't they just deal with them as lawbreakers?
I think that's a question a lot of people are asking themselves when they watch coverage of events like this and they see these, largely posh, middle-class, green idiots blocking thousands and thousands of people. I think they just ask themselves, why isn't something being done? Why aren't the police being more forceful? Why aren't they taking decisive action? And, I'm fully in favor of the right to protest. I think it's one of our most important rights, the right to make your views known, and sometimes the right to cause a bit of a nuisance outside Parliament or in Westminster or wherever else it might be. But this is something different. This is not protest. This is inconveniencing ordinary people. This is recklessly endangering life on a very busy motorway. And this is causing people to lose their jobs, to miss medical appointments, possibly to get more ill than they otherwise would have. It's really a serious problem for society. And that's when people expect the authorities to take firm action and to prevent these people from taking that kind of action. So I think there are a lot of people up and down the country who are wondering if this country's gone a little bit mad when you can have handfuls of self-righteous muppets who can bring life to a standstill for thousands of people. That seems unfair, anti-democratic, elitist, and something has to be done about it.
And there's so few of them as well. I mean, there were sort of 10 of them across the M25, as you say, causing untold chaos. people trying to get to work, parents trying to get their kids to school, lorry drivers, van drivers trying to deliver their goods, go about their jobs. More importantly, ambulances trying to get patients to hospital, just because of 10 roadblockers, and the cops not doing anything about it, merely asking them if they can help. And at one point, Brendan, I just couldn't believe my eyes. They were trying to block an access road, I think it was last Friday, and the traffic was so heavy they literally could not find a way in there to form their roadblock. So a copper went out and did the old-fashioned sort of, halted the traffic so they could sit down. It's got to stop, hasn't it?
It really does have to stop. I mean, it just should not be allowed. I mean, and the thing is, there already are laws that can be used to deal with these people. It is an offence to block a public highway. I don't understand why those kinds of laws are not being enforced in a more firm way. And that's what people expect. But you're right, this is such a small number of people. It's the tyranny of the minority. Lots of people may have concerns about environmental pollution, and they might want cleaner air and cleaner water. Of course, we all desire those kinds of things. But this kind of tyranny of the minority is something different. It's a kind of middle-class death cult where you have these groups of extremists who believe that the world is coming to an end. It's all our fault. We have to flagellate for our eco sins, seek repentance, beg Saint Greta Thunberg for forgiveness. I mean, it's become like a religious cult. And that's why they think they can do whatever they want, because when you are so dogmatic and so convinced that you are right and everyone else is wrong, then you will actually do whatever you want, and you will think that what you do is correct and righteous and good. So their ideology has warped their mindset, but that doesn't mean the rest of us should have to put up with it. And I think the reasoned, fair, ordinary British people are sick of being inconvenienced by these posh extremists.
Totally. I believe that their certitude has given them a kind of serious psychological problem. That's the other thing about those people. I think they've got psychological issues, and that's a discussion we must have another time, Brendan. But thank you so much for your time tonight. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Brendan O'Neill, the editor of Spiked Online. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and this is Talk Radio.